Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Berto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. Sorry for this delay, this backup, all this stuff. Number one, just got off the phone with Verizon. It was crazy, over 4 hours trying to get my daughter's phone set up. Numero dos, as soon as that was all over, what happened if not? Network 5 went down, so we jumped onto Network 2. It's been crazy, but you come first, folks. Well, after my daughter, of course. But you come first so that we can get this stuff going. We got a hell of an interview for you today. And I tell you what, I'm going to do Rudnin first, and then we're going to head right into the interview because this is important. But anyhow, let's go ahead. Rudnin, I can't get that stuff on the screen. I still haven't resolved that issue with the screen. But let's go get busy. And I have to read these texts on two screens now because one took a while to come up. Anyway, E2247 says, hello relatives. Hello E2247. Love you, brother. Says, Egberto, mind putting this on the screen? Can't put it on it for you today, brother, but we'll do it another time. I blame the right-wing bubble for heading conservatives down the path of anger, fear, and hate while failing to address the real concerns that our nation has crushed middle class, or has failing to address the real concerns that our nation has crushed middle class and widespread poverty caused by half a century of stagnant wages, cost of living increases, lack of healthcare, lack of infrastructure investment, etc. It has only been exacerbated by corporate corruptions, global warming, the pandemic, and their political leaders. This obstructionism. I am sure the conservatives in the audience will blame whatever leftist boogeyman the right wing bubble has them latched onto, though they will never enumerate their grievances with such issues because they know the majority of people stand with the left on each of the issues named, and we'll go on and on arguing without ever hearing each other. No, Rudnin, I gotta tell you, that is so prescient. I didn't see if that came from the article or that came out of your mouth, but whichever one, that was marvelous. Second one, here's a bit of good news. A judge in Georgia approved the creation of a special grand jury to assist in collecting testimony for criminal investigation of Donald Trump interference in the 2020 election. Remember that telephone call that he made? That one is gonna be big. I'm not gonna read all of that, but we all know that one. Second one from I've been worried. Okay, I'm back to the real screen now. I've been worried that this might happen for a few years. The third, what is it here? The third leading global cause of death is likely not what you think. New study reveals in 2019 there were 4.95 million deaths associated with bacterial antimicrobial resistance, making it the third leading cause of death worldwide. Researchers are sounding the alarm that we are annually losing more people to antimicrobial resistance than to HIV or malaria. Amazing. Amazing. Macaron also says, Michael, how many things did you put here today, buddy? But we got it. Optional follow-up number one is the World Health Organization warning for 2017. Stop using antibiotics in healthy animals to prevent the spread of antibiotic resistance. In some countries, approximately 8% of total consumption of medically imported antibiotics in the animal sector, largely for growth promotion in healthy animals. Overuse and misuse of antibiotics in animals and humans is contributing to the rising health of antibiotic resistance. Actually, you brought that one to us before, and it's so true. Optional follow-up number two are concerned scientists warning from 2013. Factory farms use 80% of the United States antibiotic supply. We took care of that one. And last one. Some more good news to close out. Strikes absolute. Rudnin, are you spying on me? That is one of the topics that we have in our blog for the show today. Strikes absolutely work. Kroger workers win new contract. Bernie Sanders tweeted, "Let me congratulate the 8,400 King Scoopers workers in Colorado for winning a new contract that includes a pay raise for up to $5 an hour, better healthcare benefits, and safer working conditions." This victory proves that when workers stand together, they can defeat corporate greed. The union called this the most significant wage increase ever secured by a United Food and Commercial Workers local for grocery workers. The union also successfully negotiated better health and protected pension benefits for its members, along with more stringent safety measures. I mean, this is so important, people. We count, we work. Okay, we also have E2247 says, hello, relatives. And Mike Runner says, it's interesting that the Twitch feed came up first a few seconds before the FB feeds. What happened is we had a crash. Norman Reynolds, hello, numero uno, numero dos. E2247 says, DeSantis says his state may sue to keep using 2 COVID treatments after the FDA halted their use because they don't work with Omicron. So that deal that you made may not be all that good after all, buddy. You are not going to be able to do what you wanted to do. Amazing. Amazing. Anyhow, continuing. Let's see what else we got to do here. Bear with me, folks, as I clean a few things up here. Let's see what else we got to do here para ver qué más tenemos que hacer. Who else is here? Peggy Lopez says, restream.bat, then there is all of the antibiotics in our own wastewater treatment that most is... You know, that is so true. I always wondered what happened to that. You know, you poop out the antibiotics and all that stuff. It goes into the lake. Eventually it builds up and the fish gets it. It's interesting. Good thought, Peggy. Hi, all, says Peggy. Michael Rene says, Experto, that's all me. Well, Michael, that's all you. Proves that you are all in. That is very good. I love the narrative that you put there because it's very important narrative. Eric Hayes says, here is local issues, I guess. 850 bond for helping a capital murderer who is still... Oh, my God. You're still there. Let me just say this, okay, Eric? It's bad. Crime is bad. But if we really want to solve crime, let's go and solve it the way it needs to be. Republicans have all the wrong answers. Make sure people are not poor. Make sure you treat people with respect. Make sure you get rid of the racism around the... I mean, there's a hell of a lot to do, but you guys don't want to do the right thing. All right, continuing. Berto, great government, local officials should stop spreading this. Next subject. Eric, stop it. Look, stop getting your news from right-wing crap. Okay, it does a little for you. PGE says, has been a probation here in California, and while on probation, they still engage in murder and destruction of private property. They get off probation soon with no further punishment. Yep. All right, folks, I got a good interview for you today. I got to pull it up because, of course, with all that was going on, I didn't get a chance to cue it into my system. So I trust that I will be able to cue Brother Cohen into my system just fine. And when Brother Cohen is cued, it's going to be all yours. And then after that, we'll come back and have a great chat. So here we go. Senor Cohen, it's all yours. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today we have our special guest, President of Indivisible Houston. But you know, that's only a small part of Daniel. Daniel is actually much deeper than just the president of Indivisible Houston. Cohen is all around Houston, making changes and making sure things happen from the grassroots. Daniel Cohen, welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's good to see you, brother. We haven't caught up in a while, man. I miss your face. I miss talking.
I miss you too. But you know what, man? You're holding down the fort there in Houston like a champ as usual, making things happen. Hey, I heard through the grapevine that you have quite a story to tell me. I understand that there is a race in Texas. It's not even a federal race, but it's likely the most important race to talk about. And it may have quite a bit of repercussions. Talk to me.
Okay, so down here in Houston, the 4th largest city in the country, we have a politician who's been around for 48 years. His name is Senator John Whitmire. His state senator is one of 3 Democratic senators in the Houston area. He's a dean of the Senate, so he's been around a really long time. He's got that status and recognition in terms of what's going on in the Texas legislature. But Whitmire is on the wrong side of a lot of issues. There's prison issues that he was famously quoted on John Oliver on being the wrong side of prison issues and not wanting to put air conditioning into prisons. He's also been on the wrong side of environmental issues and has a number of other problems as a static politician. He came into politics as a George Wallace delegate. So we're talking
wait a minute. George Wallace delegate as in George Wallace of Yay Yonder?
Oh yeah, George Wallace delegate. Yeah, so he came in with somebody who's a card-carrying, a conscious racist, if you will.
Right.
And in fact, the most famous one in Democratic politics in decades, probably. And so that's the story on him. He's got $9 million, but he also has a history of not showing up for things and for leaving Democrats holding the bag. So in 2003, there was a redistricting fight. A lot of people went to New Mexico to shut down the session. Whitmire was the one, when the Senate came back into session, he was the one that broke ranks and made it so that there would be a quorum to make that horrible redistricting go through when they carved up the state the first time. He also attended the Astros game when he was invited to discuss, as any senator wanted to weigh in, invited to discuss the horrible anti-voting legislation that passed Texas in this past year. So he didn't bother to show up for that fight either. There's a number of other fights that he's absentee on. But where he's really leaving us holding the bag is that he's going to run for mayor in 2023. He's been open about this. He's been open about this. This is not a rumor. He's declared that he's running for mayor for 2023, which means that our governor, the infamous Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, can decide to not fill that seat after he vacates it, or he can, there may be other maneuvers that he can do. But he's famous for not calling special elections. If delaying those elections benefits him politically, and it will, because if you get rid of John Whitmire, that's one less Democratic vote. Even if they play ball on a lot of issues, he'd still rather leave the seat empty than put somebody else in or call an election and give us a chance to elect another progressive. So one person who's a great community organizer and was very, very upset at the idea of him leaving us holding the bag, named Molly Cook, jumped into the race. And John Whitmire didn't know who Molly Cook was 2 months ago, but he knows who she is now. And she's an ER nurse who is currently, she's minimized her role very much to run for this for right now, but she's been a long time ER nurse. And she also has been a lead organizer on the movement to stop the I-45 freeway development, which would destroy
so far they've been slowing it down pretty well.
They have been, yeah. The Department of Transportation, actually, they got them involved, and that helped a lot because the state of Texas, the Texas Department of Transportation, also known as TxDOT, for those of you out there in other states, has been hard charging for this. And if you look at the city, like the history of Houston, I mean, it's hard to stop crude oil from flowing, it's hard to stop concrete from flowing, and it's hard to stop law enforcement from acting like cowboys and shooting at people. Those are like 3 really hard fights in this city. So to make any progress on stopping a road is a pretty impressive feat.
Exactly.
She didn't do it alone. She knows that she did it with other people, but she was the person who got other people involved, and her campaign's operating the same way. So they're knocking down doors, stuff like that, and talking to all kinds of voters. This is a new district. We just had another redistricting. I'm in Senate District 15 now. I wasn't in it before.
You're kidding me. So what did it do to your to the chairperson of the precinct?
Well, I mean, I'm fine. Oh, in terms of who's the Senate District chair, like me, I mean, I'm fine. I still live in the precinct, so I live in the same precinct I did before.
Right.
But but in terms of him, he doesn't know the people over here. He doesn't know people in my neighborhood. He has no idea what's going on when it comes to this. And he's only now coming to the realization that $9 million may not be able to save him, because at this point, she's picking up club endorsements and there's infighting across all of the different Democratic traditional constituencies between people who are in Whitmire's camp and people who are in Molly's camp. If he loses, then it likely upends the mayoral race for Houston for 2023. And in Houston, we have the strongest mayor system of any city in the United States. And it's huge amounts of money, huge budget, huge control down here, second largest port in the country, which means that this state level Senate district Democratic primary is the most important race that's going on in the country right now, hands down, that anywhere else. If you are a progressive who's looking at upsets, looking at opportunities, looking at the field, then I'm telling you, there's something wild going on down here in Texas. He's going to be very hard to beat. And she's not running like she's ever going to be ahead. She's running like she's behind, and she should. And so is everybody else down here. And there's a lot of dynamics, but it's pretty interesting stuff that's going on in Houston.
Well, earlier we were talking about some other candidates that are running in the area and in the state proper. I mean, we have somebody like Jasmine Crockett running up north, who got endorsed by Bernice Johnson. And I am watching some good young candidates one that should have been you as well. Good young candidates out there really starting to buck the system from a progressive viewpoint, but understanding how to use their progressivity. You know, I spoke to Jasmine Crockett, and she understands how it needs
Oh
to
yeah.
be done. And now I spoke to a couple others that I won't mention right now, who seem to understand that you're in Texas. Some people are not necessarily aware, and some people may succumb to some of the caricature that folks make of people who are trying to do goodwill. And they are cognizant of that and know exactly how they're going to campaign. How are you finding that with Ms. Cook and others that you are surrounded by?
She's great. I mean, she comes across great. She has an answer in terms of everything that should be going on. You can feel the energy. She's a fun person, I think, and I know that in politics, you know, we have sort of the sour face a lot of times when we're looking at. I mean, these are important issues,
Right.
but she's a happy warrior, and so I think there's something very beneficial about that. I'll also mention, of course, that while this is in Texas, we are talking about Senate District 15 in Houston, redrawn to include more urban areas. So it's not necessarily what you think of when you get out. Maybe somebody would think of when they get out, you know, even to Kingwood, right? Where like your stomping grounds, or even farther out than that, where it has a little bit, you know, less of the Houston specific stamp on it.
Right.
But having said that, I think that she is plain spoken. Her campaign is based on the idea that we should be looking after public health in all of its aspects before you end up in her emergency room. That there are so many different things that impact us, that we can solve. And man, I know I'm preaching to the choir. I know I'm talking
No.
to
You're not
Medicare
speaking
for
to
all,
me. You're speaking
but
to an audience.
hey, so yeah, if y'all watch Egberto, what he says about Medicare for all and the importance of it, fully aligned with the values of this. I mean, it's just that it's so important to make sure that we have real representation that understands that. I mean, the opposite of it, of course, is what we're getting from Whitmire, is literally an empty chair. But if she would be better than just someone who's filling the chair, if she would be somebody who actually focuses on things like cleaning up the air, on preventing highways and developments that benefit developers and oil and gas men, because of course we drive our cars on the road and pay for more gasoline, as opposed to and in the meantime not caring about the costs, such as, you know, 500 houses getting eliminated, right? Or businesses having to close because you put a highway through the middle, or highways dividing neighborhoods, as they historically have in Houston, where you have vibrant Black communities. You put, you know, a highway through the middle of 4th Ward, several decades go by, you rename the place. She's conscious of those issues. And people like Whitmire for years have been holding the bag for the people who created those issues, the people who dirty the air, dirty the water, dirty the roadways, hurt our infrastructure, divide communities. I mean, so that it's like polar opposites, right? I think what's really impressive as well, like beyond that, is that she really does know the issues from top to bottom. She was asked recently what her opinion was on the strong mayor system in the city of Houston. That's not a state Senate level issue, but she understands the overlap between the two. And what she said was, not only should we change the system so that less people, it takes less council members to get something on the agenda, which is something that several groups down here have pushed for as well, and actually making it a little bit more like other cities. But that we should actually have a lot more people. We should expand city council, because Houston's a big city.
It's
And there's
huge
not
and
enough
very
representation.
diverse.
Yeah.
A lot of different areas too, geographic
Right.
and ethnic. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have 10% turnout in mayor and city elections. And so I think that she gets the issue. She's incredibly intelligent. She's really inspiring and a happy warrior. She has a good philosophy and a view on governance, which is, you know, make sure that we take care of health. We're supposed to be proactive, not reactive. Reactive means that people get hurt in terms of protecting our public health. So I think she has something that it's based on, something that's focused on, and that when you look at all the different sub issues within that, it's a clear delineation between her and the incumbent. So she's doing a great job. That's how she's talking.
Now, let me tell you something. And first of all, before I ask this one, do you think this race is one that needs to be nationalized?
I think you should all. I think like look. I'm gonna speak to everyone here. Look, she needs the money, y'all. John Whitmire's got $9 million. He's got the backing of oil and gas. He's got the backing of developers. He's got the backing of finance. He's got the backing of law firms. and she has a backing of the people. It's a straight up and down pick 'em fight, the most important primary in the country. So you definitely should check out Molly Cook's website. I believe it's Molly Cook for Senate. I'll confirm it for you, but you should give her the money. Honestly, if you got 15, 25 bucks, you want to make an excellent impact by backing a left movement against somebody who's an entrenched bad Democrat, like this is the time to do it. So yeah, definitely back her.
Now, the interesting thing about it, and I want to go switch a little bit here. We had hopes last cycle that we could have taken out, and we almost did, taken out Cruz with Beto. Beto is now running for governor, and I am of the opinion. I am not looking at the polls specifically right now because I think polling has become a real bad science over the last, not science, but whatever the hell it is. It has been, pretty inconclusive over the last couple of cycles. I know there are times that I would say, oh, it came within the margin of error of the polls, but when the polls constantly pick, even though within the margin it constantly picks the wrong one, you have to be a bit concerned about, what's going on. But anyhow, I am of the opinion that Texas is ripe for a takeover earlier than most believe, if Democrats, progressives go out there and do the work. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I mean, we got to talk about what we mean in terms of ripe for takeover, right? So I'll give you the ups and the downs on it. It is the revolution if you actually change the state government. We still have conservative Democrats here, so we got, like a lot of places, there's several fights going on.
Let me hold you right there, because I need to stop you right there real quick, because you just hit the magic that I was talking about. I say we win we win the election in the primaries. In other words, you just said with a sort of a snark, we have conservative Democrats. So which means the work that you're doing right now, as far as saying, hey, let's start rewriting the map now with the appropriate candidates, not the old guard, but there's a woman that wants to get in, the new guard. Okay, I just wanted to insert that to add some flavor.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have to win the primaries. I would say, look, it's a heck of a fight, and different parts of it are actually going to be won at different points. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. I do think that we're going to win, because I think that you can't hold this up forever. I mean, when you got a grid failing, infrastructure damage is just, is instability is out of control. And then we got widespread housing issues, health issues, like all this stuff going on. Eventually you're going to reach a point where people are going to figure out how to do it so that they can make sure their friends and family can live better lives. And if you put people's survival on the line like that, eventually things will change one way or another. So I think that I just want to be clear there. I think that we're going to win the fight in Texas. I don't like putting timelines on it for the same reason that you don't trust the polling industry.
Right.
Because a lot of people, talk to cameras on political shows and say, I think this and this is going to happen. And if we check their batting average, right, it's like this batting like 20%. You're like, why do I watch this guy? Because somebody's friends with some producer over at MSNBC or whatever it is. But right now we're real, right? So I'll be real in that. I don't like to put years on things or when things are going to happen, because I try to be careful, and I really don't know, so I don't want to say a number, because then I'm misleading people or acting more confident than I am. But I do think that things will change at different time periods. So it's like the centerpiece in a lot of ways of it all is at the state level, in terms of if you ripple across the whole state.
Right.
Because the lieutenant governor can do whatever they want. The AG makes all our legal decisions across the state. And that's why you have this dual contradictory situation where they yell free enterprise, but then it's really just that corporations get all the money. Right. So, socialism for the rich, right? Or profits for the rich. And then, the rest of us get to pay the bill, right? And they make off with the money. Texas is like the greatest example of that. There's a book about Houston in particular called Free Enterprise City, which is just about that. But as it relates to Houston, that they tout the free enterprise success of Houston, but when you look closer, it's neither successful at taking care of people, nor is it actually free enterprise, because actually the oil and gas folks get whatever they want. But nevertheless, so I think that you're going to see, I think that the statewide stuff, like the state level stuff, where they draw the lines for the congressional maps and for all the other state maps and things like that, that's where I see the most institutional power that ripples, if you're talking about Texas as a whole. If you're looking at Houston, the most progress we've actually made is the county, because Lita Hidalgo is a drastic, drastic change from Ed Emmett. Even if she's, you know, it's like, is she, all county judges have to, you know, to be someone, you know, across the party to some degree and things like that. But so I would never say, I don't like in Lena Hidalgo to say AOC, like in terms of exactly where they are ideologically, but the change is hugely different, and her priorities are very aligned with what, you know, universal pre-K education, healthcare, criminal justice reform, stuff like that. She's moving the needles on the right stuff. So that appeals to a lot of people. And then we've got a Democratic majority on Commissioner's Court, and it looks like there's going to be a fourth person, a fourth Democrat. Now that could actually paradoxically weaken some of the left movement on council, because it dilutes the power of other people. So if that person is you know, for example, to the right of, say, Commissioner Rodney Ellis, at least on paper, who we all know to be generally left if you just look at where he is on issues, and that actually moves the court a little bit, even though it locks in a Democratic majority. So we'll have to probably pressure them. But when you compare that to city council, where you have a majority Democrats, you know, Democratic council, we got this mayor who's, you know, in the pocket of the police unions, and he appoints a Republican as the mayor pro tem,
and who also sitting as a minority in the minority party in the House, was able to have a chairman position.
Yeah, he has a lot of stuff.
I don't know.
You look that up. I mean, he voted down a lot of like just basic transparency bills, you know, just stuff like that, where it makes sense that somebody would go to City Hall after that, because, you know, if that's where you go and you don't want everyone to see what you're doing with the money, right? Like it gets scrutinized, and he acts very offended whenever anybody scrutinizes what he does with the money, and says, "What, you know, it's you know, if we have a vindictive mayor down here." But I mean, City Hall is hard. You got to topple the mayor's house probably to take City Hall. And there's a lot of candidates, and it's a low turnout election and things like that. So there's challenges there. So I feel like the counties where we've made the most progress, the city of Houston and the city level stuff, but particularly Houston, that would be a big deal. Right. And that's kind of uphill fight. Austin also right now is an uphill fight. Some of the federal maps you're starting to see some progress too. So I'd say like county, and then the federal, and then you'll start seeing some of the other stuff here and there that starts to fall.
Well, I tell you what I want to see going forward, and I'm hoping that some of our young folks like yourself and others in the movement will start doing that. My peeps were the Occupy peeps, okay, and we failed for some specific reasons, right? And I know a lot of the millennials think they were Occupy, but hey, we old folks were really behind Occupy. And
if I had $1 every time somebody told me they were the real force behind Occupy, my man.
You know, my buddy wrote a book. My buddy wrote the book. I interviewed him. He just wrote the book of the 10-year anniversary of Occupy. He wrote the book, and I looked at him and I said, "Hey, how old are you, man?" He's like, "Oh, I think he's like 46 years old, right?" And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm interviewing the guy who wrote because I met him in Madison, Wisconsin, right? And I remember the genesis of all this stuff. I met him at the Democracy Convention in Madison, and I'm like, "Hey, guy, don't you know how many of us were really kind of the backbone of this stuff? And here you come and you write a damn book about." No, he's a great guy. I sat with lunch for him in Madison, and I mean, but he wrote the 10-year. Look out for the 10-year anniversary of Occupy. He wrote it.
Okay.
And actually, he named me about 10, 15 times in the book. You know.
Hey. Yeah. Good man. See, he got the story right.
He's great. He's great. But the thing about it, Daniel, is I'm waiting. You know, how you built Indivisible Houston, and Indivisible did quite a bit. I think it's time to go the next step to move in. You have the plan, the city, where the city power lies, etc. I think it's time for the young folks to start infiltrating those spaces, because those people need to feel it on their backs, like the fear they felt when Occupy they thought was going to change capitalism. Occupy came this close till, well, you know what happened.
Hey man, yeah, another whole other discussion. I'll probably be in the audience when that panel comes up. I'll let you and Michael White and everybody else like kind of hash it out. But no, I mean, I think it's definitely time for change. It's definitely right, and I do think that I think that you do have to use all these different levers.
Hmm.
Street actions, I don't think are. I think street actions still have value, but they've changed context a lot. That even from 2018 or 2016 to now,
Right.
they've changed context and when it's effective, how it's effective, is it effective? Should we be using this tool for this? How do we want? Why are we really here? Things like that. Those are big and important questions, and they were being asked well before 2016 too. I know
Right.
this has been discussed all the way back to WTC
MLK days
protests.
before that. Yeah.
Yeah, like even I mean, right? So like there's a lot of that question, are we recreating MLK's day kind of imagery and trying, MLK kind of imagery when there's other things that are going on now that, like what do we need to do in terms of our playbook? Um, so I think that like that stuff's valuable, but we do also have to have candidates winning elections.
And
We
I think
have
that's where
to,
I'm going. Actually, I don't think
yeah,
I'm going for because look, first of all, the street movement, let's say with the the what's his name, the guy who got choked to death,
George Floyd.
George Floyd. The George Floyd protests, I think, are very responsible for a lot of changes. But I don't know that it works twice that close together because people eventually get concerned about certain issues. And go ahead, I saw
Well, no,
face.
Turner down here shut down a lot of the progress. I mean, that was very measured. Not much happened when it came to that. And we bury a lot of history here too. I mean, in general, that's the challenge is that we've been looking at these mass march movements and we see limitations on them to some
Hmm.
extent. I think that the political pressure of the last few years actually did a lot because it swung a lot of public opinion and it
Right,
twisted a lot of arms. So like the early ones, for example, packing airports across the United States led to change in approval ratings that led
right.
to change in policy to some degree. Um, the Women's March, I think, led to a lot of people being energized, which led to a lot of like seats changing hands and public opinion changing on things.
Right.
A lot of the marches on
The March
during
for Life. The March for
no,
Life.
oh
The
well,
Florida students. Yeah.
oh sure, yeah, or the marches against family separation,
Right.
the march against the official DHS policy. We still have all kinds of horrible things going on, but at least that changed that particular policy. It got them to run at the time, and so there were changes like that. There were actions that took place, but it varies by type of government. You can go to City Hall with 100 people; it doesn't matter down here, and it varies by a lot of times at least. And it
But
varies by issue, and it stopped working as well over time.
I agree, and that's why
Yeah,
I agree with you 100%. And earlier you said something to the effect running. And I give you hell a lot of times, but I do mean it. I think guys like you and a lot of guys in your posse, it is time for you guys to take it to the next level. I really do think it is time to get new leadership. I think it is time for younger folks to get in there and actually make the case. Though, first of all, most of those candidates running right now, they're not 10% as persuasive as you are with the material that can get to people. The thing about it is, when do you make the switch from activist to the person who goes ahead and campaign? And the thing about it is not campaigning in the old style that you have to meet X, Y, and Z. One of the reasons I enjoyed speaking to Fulford was it seemed like she was ready to make that calculated change. I'm not saying giving up on your progressiveness or anything like that, but be progressive, but in a manner that talks to people. I told her, I said, you can come into Kingwood and you can tell these parents who are scared about their kids, I have these 3 kids. I love my 3 kids. I want to make sure that these things are right with your kids. She can come
yeah.
in and also to the oil man and say, my husband works for the oil company. My husband, I know, look, that's the part I talk about grow up now.
Oh,
Not you,
sure.
but others. My husband works for the oil company. The change has to come from within and without, and that's
Well, It does, yeah, and it's a hard balance too. You want to get people in who are going to be who can win and also stay themselves, stick to their values, things like that.
Right.
And you're going to need a sustained number for a really long time to make
Yes.
any kind of dent in it. And then you got to win quite a few races. But I do generally agree with you that we need people. We need a new generation of candidates. We are seeing them step up. We're seeing people step up right now.
Cory Bush, yeah.
Cory Bush. Even down here, we're seeing a lot of younger candidates stepping up. You're going to have some seats with some of the younger. Ben Chao, another great candidate that people can support is he's running in precinct 4 for commissioner's court. He's running against the right hand of a billionaire or former right hand of a billionaire over at the Arnold Foundation. So he could use help. He's the kind of guy who plans stuff on the ground, pressures the business chambers. He's pressured a JP before and kind of helped out with the tenants union, 1-to-1 and some of those actions, and pays his dues each month. And he's more than like one of his main accomplishments in all of it was he worked in the elections office and made sure that drive-through voting, was a thing. And there were all these wonderful stories about people using that as a method of voting, both Democratic and Republican and independent for that matter. So point being, there's a lot of young candidates who are stepping up. The other thing though is that, I know we need candidates, but it's also just younger people kind of taking the reins and being in positions of power, whatever they might be. The directors of these nonprofits, the head, because there are all kinds of issue groups, organizations that are like progressive training, leadership, discourse, whatever it is. And then when you look closely, there's a fight in there, just like there is in every other wing out there. Yes. There's some centrists that want to make a few multiples on everybody else whenever they can. And then there's lefties who are like, no, like you need
what we want.
People, if people unionize, you need to support them, and like we should be looking at our business whether or not it's ethical, and like y'all are just picking up cash from anybody. So I think that like we got to win all these struggles. The new generation has to win struggles in these different places. But to your point about candidates, Molly Cook is absolutely one of the best candidates anybody.
Well, we're coming up on time right now, and I want you to go ahead and tell me a little bit about where Molly Cook fits into this picture that you and I are talking about to effectively make that change from the old guard that's owned to a new guard who's not owned by the plutocracy, but by serving the people.
All right. So Molly Cook is someone who, like I said before, cares about all aspects of public health because she wants to make sure to address those issues before you end up in her emergency room. She is a trained ER nurse. She's also an organizer against the Highway Interstate 45, which is going to destroy people's homes, businesses, and cause all kinds of other problems, divide neighborhoods. And she's taking on John Whitmire, who's a do-nothing, derelict in duty senator, one of the most powerful in the state of Texas, been there 48 years since George Wallace was a delegate. And it's a straight up and down kind of battle between someone who's going to represent people and somebody who is, in your words, your commonly used phrase here, represent the plutocracy. So if you want a young candidate, the next generation of candidates taking on somebody who's been in office for 48 years for all the wrong reasons, wants to leave us holding the bag while he goes off to run for mayor before he finishes his next term, you should support Molly Cook. Molly Cook for Texas Senate District 15. Reach in your pocket if you got it. Give her a Bernie. Give her $27. Like, hook her up, right? Like,
give her a Bernie.
Please, she's running against a guy with $9 million who just wants to buy this seat and then buy the mayor's mansion and vacate his seat and leave us at the will of Greg Abbott. So please, Molly Cook fits into the picture because she's taking this guy on. She wants to beat him, and she needs to be able to even that to take away his financial advantage. She doesn't need $9 million, but if y'all can do out there what you've done for so many other candidates as audiences of left-leaning listeners, trying to help people and good candidates win fights and win primaries and things like that, now's the time to do it. So that's where Molly Cook fits into the picture.
Daniel Cohen, president of Indivisible Houston, all around activist. And he's not just a Texas activist. He's not just a Houston activist. He's a national activist. It's been my pleasure. It's been my honor to have you as usual. Senor Cohen.
Thank you, Berto. You're awesome, man. Keep doing what you do.
All right, folks, I hope you like that. That was Daniel, our buddy. He's been on a couple of times before, maybe more than a couple of times before. because he's one of the activists of activists here in Houston. But hey, it's that time for me to play my little video. Please go ahead and get my books. Egberto Willies, as host of Politics Done Right, a progressive radio media show on Pacifica Network's KPFT 90.1 FM Houston that engages all ideologies. I found that our political angst isn't mostly ideological. There is a well-designed effort by many in power to control us. If we are at each other's throats, we are less likely to demand our economic and local wishes. In that light, I wrote 3 books. I wrote the first one titled, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, to describe the entire economy in a manner we can all understand. It highlights why it was designed to pilfer most as it empowers a few, the chosen. The second book, titled, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, take it to the next level. After understanding how the system pilfers, it is incumbent that we can speak to our peers to empower a change. The third book, How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, gives us a place to land. After learning about our economy that is dysfunctional for most and learning how to engage the other side, we point out what would make an economy that works for all. Each book stands on its own, but together they provide the full picture. Please consider getting one or more. You will undoubtedly learn, be entertained, and help us continue the mission with our blogs, articles, videos, and books. I'm Egberto Willies. Folks, so please check out the books. Anyway, you can also go ahead and support us by doing what again? Clicking that join button. Click that join button and become a part of our posse. That join button, and here is the link, I think, if I can get it in. There we go. Oh, wrong one. I got to get out of there before I put all that bad information on the screen. Okay, here we go. Go to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Alternatively, you can go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Alternative, please go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Help us out. Make sure that we can continue doing what we're doing. Get our hoodies and all that good stuff. Hoodies, masks, all of that at politicsdoneright.com/store. politicsdoneright.com/store. And again, one more time, politicsdoneright.com/books. politicsdoneright.com/books to get our books. And if you forgot all those links that I just gave it to you, or want to find some other ways of supporting Politics and Right, go to politicsandright.com/support. politicsandright.com/support. Anyhow, let's get busy and start talking about what you guys are talking about. We have Eric Hayes says, dog with a bone can't let go of the broken bail bond system and local crimes, which are not statistically impactful cause of crime. Hey, Eric, I favor being rid of the bail bond system. You know what's so funny? Those people that are railing against these people getting bonds, they want bonds. Because guess who pays a lot of these politicians? The guys who give bail bonds. They don't tell you that, right? Tom C says, Georgia Republicans are pushing a bill banning all government vaccine mandates. If bill becomes law, all vaccines will be optional, including 17 different vaccines for children before entering school. It is ridiculous when we see people doing that. They want typhoid back, whooping cough back, measles back, chicken pox. You know, when you talk about the people that are willfully ignorant, and I don't speak like this often, but we are talking about a people who are wanting to pass laws, and they're not ignorant, that's gonna get people killed on a false freedom. Well, don't wear clothes. Is it okay if we don't wear clothes? Can we all go around naked? The law says you gotta wear clothes. We can go around naked if you want. Because asking you to wear clothes is messing with your freedom. Asking you to go to either a women's or men's bathroom is messing with your freedom. Of course, I kind of like the bathrooms now that are one bathroom. You don't get that big long line. So think about it, people. What they're saying is these back in the early days, they called them the know-nothings, right? We have the right wing creating an avalanche of know-nothing. Paul Fleming, welcome aboard. My brother Tom C, welcome aboard as well. We've also got Para ver, E2247 says Lincoln Project messaging is harsh as truth, whereas Democratic messaging is just plain mealy mouth. I agree so wholeheartedly with you, E2247. Roberto Luis says, saludos a mi gente. Welcome to my brother. How you doing today? Books, broadcast, products. Thank you, sir. Absolutely right. We also have in the house, I think that's about it there. We have not open to investigation. He says, I don't mind if you share other MSNBC house, just not Maddow. You don't like Maddow? I like Maddow, but she just she takes a long time to get around to the point sometimes. I'm curious. Why don't you like Maddow though, ABQ? I'm curious. I want to see if it's what I hear from other people as well. Anyhow, folks, and Bruce Pollard says, I'm here. How you doing, Bruce? Great to see you. I cleaned up that blog with that conversation, and I posted it in several places, and the reviews are kind of pretty damn good, you know? Okay, Michael Ronin said, Egberto, I'll offer the same secular talk video about the Lincoln Project that I want you to check out after the show. No problem, my brother. Thank you so kindly. The duck that quacks wants me to know he's here. Welcome, duck that quacks. I have a video for you guys that I want you to see, and then we'll take it on the other side. We got the perfect interpretation of the media in this little piece here. Let's listen to it, and then we'll take it on the other side.
David Rothkopf, a foreign affairs analyst and an opinion columnist for USA Today and the Daily Beast. He is the host of the Deep State Radio podcast. David, there's another problem with Washington news media coverage, which is if they were baseball reporters, the way they would cover the game is the winner is whoever won the last inning. So everything Joe Biden did in the first, second, third, fourth innings of year one is forgotten when Build Back Better runs into the roadblock in the Senate, and then voting rights runs into the filibuster roadblock in the Senate. And there's no reporting about how Joe Biden in a year pulled every single Democratic senator along into the space of being willing to change the Senate rule, all except those last two. Because in Washington coverage, it's all about what happened today. That determines who the winner and the loser is.
Yeah, I agree, except to use your metaphor, I don't think it's the last inning. I think it's the last pitch. You know, Joe Biden is really only 2 innings into his first term as president. And everybody's saying, oh, well, he's in trouble. 2 innings into the game, having passed over $3 trillion in new legislation, appointed more judges than anybody ever in history, created more jobs in his first year than anybody ever in history, undid a lot of the damage Trump did, restored American standing, ended the longest war in American history. And that's what he did in year one. That's sort of in the middle of the second inning. So far, so good, I would say.
Form that everybody can. Have you ever wondered, why is it that Democrats don't have that just rolling off of their tongues? That was so easy. And it took less than 30 seconds. The media isn't going to do it for you. As they've said, the media only looks at not what's occurring in the last inning, but what's occurring in the last pitch. Because that is how shallow the media has become. That is how shallow the media has been paid to become. So, therefore, in 30 seconds, whenever you're in front of a camera, is it so hard to do what Rothkopf just did? I don't think so. Think about it. I don't think so either. He did an excellent job. Okay, here we go. Eric Hayes says, how about that Joe and his SOB mention of Ducey? Ducey is really an SOB. Ducey is also doing the hole in the water for the plutocracy. Ducey is always trying not to teach Americans anything or to inform Americans, but to try to embarrass the president. Now, that said, you know, I don't think he needs to go match the level. Now, let me just say now, Donald Trump has opened a whole new level. He called these reporters SOBs over and over and over again. Eric Hayes, he's done that while you were listening to Politics Done Right. I don't remember once you telling any of our body in our audience, you know, Donald Trump shouldn't be using those words against those reporters. Not once. But El Señor Biden does it one time. He calls the guys and apologizes, and you want to have him for dinner? Hell no. I thought it was amusing. I laughed. I mean, the thing about it is, the reason I don't want him to do it is he give fodder for the right to mess with, right? But the truth of the matter is, it's nothing like what has happened before. Peggy says, I like Mato spins and yarn. Great storyteller. I may be old enough to not have got to immediately to the point. I should be old enough for you to not waste my time getting to the point. You see what I'm saying, Peggy? Here, I can't waste your time getting to the point. But, like last night, we were watching Mato, right? And it was, I think, probably around minute 11 or probably minute 9 or so. My daughter said, where's she going? That's what she said. She's like, where's she going? And I said, well, babe, you know Rachel. Rachel has a long story that she tells before she goes. Then at minute 16, we finally realized what she was talking about. Then I said, hey, babe, this is what she's talking about. And she said, oh, okay. 16 minutes to get to the point. Peggy, if at any time I took 16 minutes to get to the point, please text me and say, Egberto, what the hell is wrong with you? But I love Rachel. I love Rachel. She's good. And when she has a full schedule, she knows how to shorten things up. She just didn't have a lot to talk about that she researched yesterday. Although that one piece, get into that 16 minutes, they'll take a lot of research. All right, Michael Ryan said, compare that commentary to what the average people think of Biden as his approval rating slides into the 30s. The last time the people liked Biden was when he gave people $1,400. Yeah, what have you done for me lately is the mentality. But I want to go a little bit deeper. We only have a minute here, but I want to say this. It's not, Biden is losing in the polls less because of what Biden is doing and more because the implication of the effectiveness of the right, how they are able to demean him without any real pushback. Let's give a good example. They talk about Biden, this guy said it. Oh, the Democratic Party has pulled Biden too much to the left, and that's why he don't want it. Sinema and Manchin isn't signing a contract. Okay, good, fine. I would go out immediately. The Democrats should be out there saying, wait a minute, pulling to the left, are you saying going to the left is where the people, we must not give the people what they want? Or are you saying that pulling to the left is not giving Americans what they say they want? Because you're saying the elitist, and I would tag Republicans and Manchin and Sinema with elitism. Why? Because everything in Build Back Better, Americans say they want. The people who don't want it are the politicians. Get it? So who is moving to the left? It's not people moving to the left. It's the politicians moving to the right, moving towards the plutocracy. So my brothers and sisters, E2247 was correct. We are not giving the message. Biden will continue to tank until Biden himself, until his posse comes out there and embarrasses the elitists, the true elitists, those who don't want to do what America is asking for. Folks, I got to get out of here. But it is important for us to have context for everything. Absolutely everything. ABQ says, Norman, factual blanket statement without any corroboration. No, that is Eric Hayes. Norman says the media is no longer trustworthy as they are paid to deliver whatever misinformation and bias people mention, seek out, and demand. Exactly right. All right, guys. Catch you later, Michael Rudnin. I want to give you that last catch-all one more time. politicsdoneright.com/support. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. we spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.